Hello everyone, welcome to the 7th episode of YLF Story. I'm Shomik Hussain and I will be your host for the evening. YLF Story is an online discussion session where we talk to someone who has his own who has his or her own startup, and we hear about their own story, their failures and their success stories. So today's guest is the guest that we have today is Mr. Pradipta Kumar Shaha, who is the CEO and founder of Nerdies and Skill Hub, and we will talk to him and get to know about his ventures and how he has come to where he is right now. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Pradeep Kumar Shah on the screen. Thank you so much, Bhaiya, for coming to our show today. So without further ado, I would like to move straight on to the questions. So our first question for today is, can you very briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Shomik. It's First of all, I would like to thank YLF for inviting me to this program to tell my story, and um, and I hope I'm able to create some impact and some value in this session. Currently, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Skill Hub and Nerdies. I am also an entrepreneurship instructor at Brack University Salvador campus. I also do independent mentoring and coaching in various youth development platforms, such as I'm a global mentor at Upkey, which is situated at which are headquarters in USA. I'm a Young Founder School mentor and coach, and also I've been a mentor and coach in Abhinta Kabir Leadership Program. And this is a brief description of what I do, and I think that's who I am.
Okay, wow, what a amazingly stellar career you've got. So today you're here as the CEO and founder of Nerdies and Skill Hub, basically. And can you give us a brief introduction about what these companies essentially do, or what happens in Nerdies and Skill Hub? We would like to know about it.
First of all, I would like to introduce my company with which I have when I rised up the ranks,
Okay.
and that is Nerdies. Nerdies is a virtual reality education platform where students will not only read but will be able to experience the education content. Nerdies, and surprising I will tell you, and I'm very proud of saying that Nerdies is the first virtual reality education platform in Bangladesh. When it was launched in 2017 August, it was the first virtual reality education platform in Bangladesh. And still, there are a lot of people working with virtual reality, but in education, we are working solely. In Nerdies, we provide virtual reality sessions to schools. We are also planning to create VR labs in schools where students will not only read but will be able to experience their content. We have both a package for privileged and underprivileged kids, because for underprivileged kids, we work with NGOs to create underprivileged kids experience the things they cannot due to their monetary constraint. So while we, for the last last 2.5 years, we have been working tirelessly to create and make sure that people in Bangladesh adopt to this technology, because there's an incredible amount of value that there is through visual learning. Because through visually learning something, we can actually retain almost 70% more of the content we read, because we normally memorize, but if we see something, we are able to actually retain a lot better. So that is something we are trying to adopt, because it's in a very early stage, because virtual reality in education is very new. So while we were working with virtual reality for the last 2.5 years, we also recognized it was pre-COVID. I would like to state that. Pre-COVID, we were also thinking, because I'm more about creating impact ventures, which actually helps people to grow and impact the society as well. So I was also experiencing that there would be an increase in the skill sets for Industry 4.0, for example, data analytics, and then AI, cybersecurity. And pre-COVID, we had done a research, and we were actually thinking there would be a rise in such skills. However, over the last 3 months, we actually experienced the 3 months we did our research, and we experienced there was a huge need for this kind of skills. But then we launched our skill hub, which is a industry which provide training on industry 4.0 skills. And when COVID hit, it was pretty much evident that we needed such skills, and now we are providing the essential skills and industry 4.0 skills.
Okay, that really is an amazing idea. So that really brings me to my next question. That um, how did the idea of Nerdies essentially come up? Like, because this is something that hasn't been done in Bangladesh, and like no one's really thought about it for like a long time. And we've been in the digital age for quite a while. And like, how did you like manage to come up with such an innovative idea? Like, what made it like possible?
Very interesting story, to be honest, Shomik. I would tell you. I have told it numerous number of times, but it never gets old. Um, when I was a kid and I used to study, it was very challenging for me to memorize those books and chapters and the content I used to read, and that's why I couldn't excel much. And I always, when I used to see something and I used to read it, then I was able to understand much better. I was a visual learner, and over time I did my O levels, I did my A levels, and when I was in my university, we had a residential semester, which is TARC. So once we were taken to Savar, once we were taken to Lal Bagh Kela, and we were shown the place. So I was really bad at history, and I was really not. I couldn't remember anything. But once I was shown the place in Lal Bagh Kela, they actually showed me the place, and then we have an examination afterwards. I think if you are in the same curriculum, you know that. So I surprisingly did well. So that time it clicked that visual learning is actually very effective, and I wanted to do something because I realized there were a lot of people like me who are visual learners, and if I am able to impact, I create something that can help people in visual learning, I think I can impact a lot of people. From there I took the idea. I had an idea to promote visual learning, and then I stumbled upon VR, and I thought it was a great combination of merging and virtual reality and the visual learning platforms together and launching virtual reality education platform for kids.
That really is an amazing story. Because I personally went to TARC as well, since I study in Brack University as well. So I can totally relate where you are coming from essentially about the story. Um,
Yeah.
so so I believe you started Nerdies around the time, or the idea popped up around the time when you were a student. So I'm sure there were like many challenges that you've encountered, especially since this is like a first time venture in Bangladesh in this particular field. So could you tell us a little bit about the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
One of the quote I say, and that actually helped me, made me actually go through all those hurdles. If you're unable to see the positives in the negatives, it's very hard that you're going to succeed. So what happened was people say that what are the hurdles I faced, but I had gone through a lot of hurdles, a lot of hurdles, because when I wanted to actually establish this platform, I was a student and I had a scarcity of cash. I was an economics student with no IT skills. It was the first time that was being done, and if in 2016 I have told you that I was going to build up a VR virtual reality education platform, you would have laughed at me. Not calling me into the show, but laughed at me and just would have gone to somebody else. So exactly that happened. I went to competition, I was laughed out of competition. I went to my friends, they told it's a very good idea, but how are you going to do it? You're an economic student with no IT skills, and how are you going to establish it? You have no money even. And it was very easy to give up at that moment, but I didn't give up. uh, what I did was I had some money from, I taught few students in my university when I was starting my university, so I had some cash from tuitions. So I took that cash and I self-taught myself how to create virtual reality content.
That
And I
is really amazing.
In the
Right.
6 months, I self-taught myself how to create virtual reality content, and after that, I created a prototype and I launched a video in Facebook, and it went viral. There were 80 to 90,000 views that time, and that time without that was an organic reach, and that time it was huge, 80 to 90,000. And the friends who were laughing at me, who were not supporting me, suddenly came to me. We had a team after that. We generated a team. There was one of my I got my chief operation officer from there, Shagar Mujumdar. Then we had other people's also contributing, and from there on we just moved forward.
That really is an amazing story. And speaking of your chief operating officer, Mr. Shagar Majumdar has also commented here. Hi, partner. So speaking of comments, we would like to we will be taking comments from the audience. So if any of you have any comments, আপনারা যদি ভাইয়াকে কোনো কিছু জিজ্ঞেস করতে চান, then feel free to comment. We will be taking it. Um, so we already have a comment from Syed Mashiat Afsin. Bhaiya, what plans do you have for Skill Hub in 5 to 7 years? I believe we will be coming to this comment in a few minutes. Before that, let me just get over my questions, and then we can take comments towards the end of the show. All right. So the next question that I have is, you started this venture as a student, right? And a lot of students have the dream that they really want to have their own startup, or they want to have their own business or venture. So what do you think is the right time to do it? Like as a student, or right after you're done with your undergrad?
I would say maybe after 2 or 3 years working experience. After you graduate, you should do a job for 2 3 years, get adequate. Uh, but I learned it the hard way. To be honest, I learned it the hard way. I was immensely passionate person, but I would not sugarcoat anything, and I won't say anything that's extremely sugarcoated. I'm just going to tell what's true and what I felt. University, starting entrepreneurship is like eating glass. It's so tough. Every day you wake up, and you can understand the difficulty you're going to have. Every day you have to, but you won't. It don't feel like going into the office and pushing for it, because you're most likely, when you're a first-time entrepreneur, you're going to fail every day. You don't have experience of building a team. You don't know how to create a vision board. You don't know absolutely, you know nothing if you're a student, because that's why why we go to university, right? So I feel that the university time is a skill building. It's a time, or 4 years, where you build your skills, because I was able to cross multiply, because I was from a different background. I was an economics background student, so I had to teach myself through YouTube and all other things. But if you're from a BBA background or other background, your university actually supports you, and your education is actually supported by all those things. So those 4 years should be all about skill building, making yourself so competent that people actually see you as a force to be reckoned with. And once you do that, now it comes to networking, building your experience. Because when you start out, you are bound to make mistakes. So you are going to make mistakes with your money or somebody else's money. That's the question. If you are planning to make mistakes on your own money, which I did, I made mistakes, but I had the guts to do that. And maybe I was able to do that. But if you are planning to make mistakes on somebody else's money, take a job for the first 2 years, learn, and then think about uh, starting a business. However, I would say that is not a rule of thumb. We have many successful entrepreneurs from students base as well, who has graduated as well. But I feel this is something that they can. One thing that actually plays a part. I would actually be very clear here. When you are a student, you don't have any responsibility. You don't have to pay your family, so that actually is a big incentive for you to start early. Because if you have responsibility of your family, then it's inevitable that either your business has to earn enough cash, or you have to work somewhere else to make sure that you are able to support your family. If you are not able to do that, then it's very difficult, because once you get into responsibility, you get married and all those things, then it's very difficult to start a business. So
Right.
there's no rule for every person. It is going to be different.
All right. Thank you for like giving us two sides of the coin, essentially. So the next question that I have is that so as we all know that we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, and so you've already talked about how Skill Hub and the pandemic essentially, uh, the challenges or the consequences that you faced because of the pandemic. What happened to Nerdies during this pandemic? I would like to know a little bit more about that. Like, I'm sure there were challenges or consequences because of that. So could you tell us a little bit about it?
I think another hard reality of a business is what I faced in the pandemic. Nerdies is a VR education platform, but most of its money comes from providing activation content to corporates. We provide several activation gaming, for example, games, what you see in various seminars or various expo. So the main revenue comes from that, and VR education is slow. I mean, we are trying to introduce that, and slowly, steadily, it's gaining that revenue. But main majority of the cash actually comes from that. So as we don't have any kind of physical expos, so our revenue has substantially dropped. Our revenue has substantially dropped from 100% to zero. And that's the extent pandemic hit us. But on the other hand, I can surely say Skill Hub has seen an opposite scenario. While everybody was in quarantine, they were more excited, they were more incentivized to do courses. They were more incentivized to do courses. So whatever courses we launched, we got a very good response. People did a lot of courses. We had a good revenue, stable revenue. I think it was a rapid growth in revenue. So at one side we had been heavily hampered, but on the other side we have seen growth. But still now we are at Nerdies, we are actually gaining momentum back as everything is opening.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sure it's going to get much better in the future. Um, so, so as the society is like changing a lot, right? And you know, like as students, we have to like prep ourselves in a different manner from time to time. So, how do you think? Like, do you think that leadership skill development is important, and how do you think platforms like YLF can help students or just young leaders in general? Like, what are your views on that? What do you think about that?
I think leadership is very much essential. I have seen, as I've told, I have been a part of many youth leadership programs, and among them was YFS, Upkey, and I'm always been a huge proponent of promoting leadership, because through leadership we can actually change the whole nation, because leaders inspire a lot of change. I think what YLF is doing is incredible. YLF is preparing, sharing stories of leaders, making them understand the difficulties, constraint, and what they could learn from the leaders. While I was starting out as an entrepreneur, there was very few platforms like YLF. I didn't know what were the challenges, how difficult it was to start an entrepreneurship journey, the constraint and the mistakes that I could learn from, and I had to learn the hard way. But it shouldn't be that way. We could learn from other people's experiences. We can gain skills through communicating, to finding mentors, and YLF, I think through its leadership platform, so sharing its stories and sharing those skills can make a huge change in the community.
Thank you very much, Kaya. So, uh, my next question to you is: so you have been an instructor for the entrepreneurship course at the Brack University Residential Campus. So, as an instructor, like, what do you like? How do you think co-curricular activities can help out a student, and how necessary are co-curricular activities for a particular student?
There is, I couldn't emphasize it. It's co-curriculum activities are of various categories. While you are in university, one of the categories that we see is a lot of club activities that are being provided. There are lots of clubs, and from those clubs, you will actually get a lot of networking facilities. You can actually be enrolled to a whole networking network of people. You will understand how to network, how to create liaison, and how to maintain relationships. But competitions is also very important. When in my initial days, I was very much involved in my venture, and I was leading the venture, and I didn't have the time to do competitions. But at the very end of my education, of my curriculum, of my 4 years of education, I did feel competition. I actually realized how important it was. You learn leadership, you learn case solving, you learn scenario analysis. You create a great relationship with the corporate world because a lot of people who would be judging are from the corporate scenario. So you get to interact with them, and the people who would be competing with you after a few years, they would be in the top position. So it's a whole holistic thing. So if so, I think that actually creates a lot of value for a student.
Thank you very much, Haya. So my final question for the day, this actually ties into one of the questions that we have in the comment section. Said Mashia Tafsin has written, Bhaiya, what plans do you have for Skill Hub in the next 5 to 7 years? So I would like to rephrase that question a little bit. So what are your plans in the future about both Skill Hub and Nerdies? Like, would you like to share that with us? Where do we see Nerdies or Skill Hub in the next 5 to 7 years?
In my the vision I have actually seen, Nerdies and Scale Hub actually aligns with each other, and both are companies that I have built and the team has built, and every person in the team actually shares the same vision. We want to see people that we want to see that students are actually empowered through visual learning capabilities. Kids are learning robotics and other future ready skills. And through skill hubs, we want to create the next generation of workforce where people are learning data analytics, cybersecurity, and all those skills where they can enrich themselves and enrich the society.
Oh, wow, that's very well said. Hopefully, we will see some great things from Nerdies and Skill Hub, both of your ventures. So, I will be taking one final comment for the day. It's from Jidni Moyuk. Nowadays, there are a lot of educational tech startups, workshops, and training sessions are all over the place. What makes Skill Hub unique and stand out from the crowd? So, yeah.
While we started Skill Hub, we had a very clear perspective. We wanted to understand that what are the deficiencies that student actually faced, and we found out that there was a lack of industry relation with what they were learning, and we wanted to understand the industry corporate leaders can actually give more value for to the students. If the students would learn from the corporate leaders, they could actually understand what kind of the way they can actually incorporate their learning in the corporate scenario. And that's why at Skill Hub we bring corporate people to teach those skills. All our faculties or all our instructors have worked for several years or are in the top position at several MNCs or big companies. This enables Skill Hub to create a bridge between students and corporates. And students actually have a higher exposure and a greater sense of what they would get in the corporate scenario.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. And it actually does very nicely. We've got a few more comments as well. A lot of people have wished you and wished YLF for this being a great show. We've got one from our very own Faizan Bhaiya, major throwback to my Nerdies days. So,
Yes, yes. I think Faizan was uh, one of the initial team. What I was talking about in 2017, we had a very Faizan was a very fundamental part of our team who helped Shagor. I would like to mention two names: Shagor Mojumdar and Faizan. They played an incredible and a very essential role in the early days of Nerdies.
that's really amazing. And yeah, the three of you've like done some amazing work, and we can totally see that. So with that, we would like to come to an end to today's discussion. Bhaiya, thank you so much for giving us this time. I'm sure you were very busy, and you gave us so much time amongst that. And to the audience, thank you very much for staying with us today. It has really been a pleasure. Bhaiya, thank you so much again. And with that, I would like to end today's session. Thank you.
You're most welcome.